Hi, welcome to Finding the Word. I'm Melanie Brown, and the word is comfortable. I was having a conversation and just mentioning the fact that, if that person was uncomfortable with something, that it was fine, we could figure something else out. But then I heard within my spirit that comfort is not always the goal. And I had to stop for a moment, and comfortable was a word to deal with and a word to look into. The goal for us a lot of times is how comfortable are we? Our focus a lot of times is on our comfort levels. And of course, if you're purchasing a bed or a car or, some type of tools and things, is how comfortable you are working with it or how comfortable it is when you're riding and things like that. If you're going to stay in a hotel or a certain place, you're like, I'm more comfortable in this place or I'm more comfortable in this seat. But things of the spirit and things that God is asking you about, things in your life, changes and things like that, when it comes to service to others, comfort is not always the goal. Loving others, comfort is not always the goal. I'm seeing where fruits of the spirit, the growth in the spirit, is not comfort driven. The comfort is more on the other end of it, but it does not start off a lot of times that way. You have to work through the difficulty to get to the comfort. And there are other things that are like this in our lives as well. Obviously, when we go to the gym, we know people always like to use this one. If you're going to start walking on the treadmill, doing the stair climb or whatever, it is not comfortable. It's not going to start off like, ooh, yes. No, your thighs are burning or whatever else, and it's not comfortable. However, on the other side of it, you will then, when you're running to catch a bus or run into your plane, you're late for something, or you're out with the children playing games. Now you're able to be more comfortable on this side than you would be if you go ahead and have your discomfort up front. But I felt the Spirit saying we can get tripped up by how comfortable we are in situations, which will make us tend to shy away from them when we really need to be going forward. And the definition of comfortable is at ease, quiet, which quiet, it's interesting, but I could see that because, typically being comfortable, it's not a whole lot of chaos and noise. It's secure, at ease, prosperous is even on here for comfortable. Now, one was especially of clothes or furnishings, providing physical ease and relaxation. But then two was something being as large as is needed so that you're comfortable. It's a comfortable fit or comfortable size. And then also free from stress or fear, free from I'm sorry, free from financial worry, having an adequate standard of living, physically relaxed, and free from constraint. So that is what it's really meaning to be comfortable. You're physically relaxed, you're free. So we are looking for that all the time, but we have to understand that there are times that it will trick us. So, and there's a few Bible stories that came to mind of people who I know were not comfortable, but they were doing what the will of the Lord is. Noah came to mind first, and that's Genesis 6-8 if you want to read the story of Noah. But if he's the only righteous man left, him and his family, and you're building an ark for people who know nothing of what you're talking about with a boat and water coming forth and all of this, and you're gathering up animals, it could not have been comfortable for them to be laughed at and carried on and stuff with people wondering what the heck was wrong with them during that time. But they went on anyways. At the end, doors shut, they're in safety. I also thought about Mary. She was pregnant with Jesus and she was not married. You know that was uncomfortable for Joseph, for her. Of course, the end of that was baby Jesus. Well worth it. But I'm saying had to be some discomfort that they walked through. And then also a really good story. Now, Mary was Matthew 1:18-21, if you were to go back and look at that. Daniel in the lion's den had to be uncomfortable. But I noticed the discomfort in that story, and that's Daniel 6:18-21. That discomfort was from the king, and he was in anguish, worried about what was going on with Daniel. When the king had found out about Daniel and that he had to be thrown in the lion's den and that he was deceived because he loved him and stuff, he was so distraught. And I'm going to just read a couple of these verses just to show the part where he was uncomfortable. Hearing this, the king was deeply troubled. He tried to think of a way to save Daniel. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of this predicament. And this is Daniel 6:14. So you want to read Daniel 6, but that was not comfortable. He was feeling overwhelmed and upset. Also, it talks about how the king returned to his palace and spent the night fasting. He refused his usual entertainment, and he couldn't sleep at all that night. And early the next morning, he got up and hurried out to the lion's den. And when he got there, he called out in anguish. So I think he was anticipating that he was not going to answer. And so that was so uncomfortable, I was thinking, but it was a really necessary testimony for what he was able to see in the end, after all of that uncomfortableness. Then Daniel, the servant of the living God, was your God whom you serve so faithfully, able to rescue you from the lions. And so he didn't even know. He was doubting. He was obviously doubting, being in that kind of anguish, that it was possible for him to even have this result. Daniel answered, "Long live the king." My God sent his angels to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me. For I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, your majesty. The king was overjoyed. But this showed him, wow, he trusted in his God. His God was able to save him. So it was really uncomfortable for a point, and then really a great lesson and testimony. So we can see clearly what we can gather from this, that sometimes walking through what's uncomfortable has a result to help you in the end. It has a positive result, has a testimony, has a lesson, things like that. So that not every time are we able to have comfort as our goal, not especially with things where the Spirit is working. Now, it can trip you up. It can trip you up if you're really focused on it a lot, because in a love walk, you're going to see situations where it's not that comfortable. We are not always going to be able to be free from any types of uncomfortable situations that we feel like are bringing stress or fear. We're not supposed to be in a fearful place, but it's not always completely comfortable when you're walking blind and really having to exercise the faith. It can get uncomfortable, and you have to be careful not to lean on that part of it, but to really anticipate and understand and trust in what's coming on the other side. The actual scripture is Job, that I have for Job 21. And you'll have to go and just read Job 21 because it's so much. And I want to kind of go back and read it all, but it's just a lot. It's a lot. It's his 7th speech. But I'm going to look at, I'm going to go over maybe, let's say about 17 or 16, 15. I'll start with 15 and read through where, for comfortable, which is going to be in verse 23. Who is the Almighty, and why should we obey him? What good will it do us to pray? They think their prosperity is of their own doing, but I will have nothing to do with that kind of thinking. Yet the light of the wicked never seems to be extinguished. Do they ever have trouble? Does God distribute sorrows to them in anger? Are they driven before the wind like straw? Are they carried away by the storm like chaff? Not at all. Well, you say at least God will punish their children. But I say he should punish the ones who sin, so that they understand his judgment. Let them see their destruction with their own eyes. Let them drink deeply of the anger of the Almighty, for they will not care what happens to their family after they are dead. But who can teach a lesson to God, since he judges even the most powerful? One person dies in prosperity, completely comfortable and secure, the picture of good health, vigorous and fit. And another person dies in bitter poverty, never having tasted the good life. But both are buried in the same dust, both eaten by the same maggots. So, who's judging Job? I don't have a thing to say about anything he was saying, because the story, whether figurative or literally, is just letting us know that, people can really walk through tough situations. They are not cursing God, and they are blessing their friends and praying for people, and they are, having it out there in their feelings about it and things like that, but they can make it through. And the blessing was on the other side for all to also understand that we can walk through things and we can stay close to God. So the word is comfortable, and the word was comfortable there for verse 23. But really, I feel like God is taking me through Job. He's saying, you know what, read through Job and listen for what the Spirit may want to say, and just a different message that we can receive through there, because he certainly was not comfortable through that situation either. There's a lot to learn about our perspectives. Like, one of the real examples of being uncomfortable and it just being a part of things and it's not the goal, and that is childbirth. Having been pregnant 11 times and twin pregnancies, they're not comfortable, especially at the end. I had to get crutches at the end of the last one. And so them being near 7 pounds, they were heavy. But it was also double the gifting and double the blessing at the end. And then even through some of the others, it's a process. There are things that are not always easy about it, but comfort isn't the goal. And there will be some uncomfortable moments, and that's okay. Our eye is on the prize. We understand that they're the reason for it. We understand the reason afterwards when you're learning to breastfeed and all of these things that come with it. It's not going to be comfortable. It's going to be rough. And you're working through because there's a greater good for it. Let's remember that sometimes in our walk and in things that we have to get through, fears, we have to get through anxieties, we have to learn to have peace. And some of that means we are walking through uncomfortable situations. We have to look at them differently. If you find yourself feeling uncomfortable, look for what the result is going to be on the other side. Depending on how much of the fruit of the Spirit we are really working on, and how many areas we are really trying to grow and come up higher in, is going to be somewhat the level of discomfort we're going to be feeling as we work through being generous, and we work through forgiveness, and we work through really truly loving each other. In our walk with Christ, comfort is not our number one goal. Don't forget to find the word, and I will see you tomorrow.